Welcome to another episode of Rockin' with Cam. Please tell me, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
My name is Emmett Hughes.
Mr. Emmett. This podcast is about hearing the life journey and life story of other people. I love speaking to very interesting people that resonate with me and the frequencies on please tell me a little bit about your history and a little bit about your life.
Okay, I was born in Brooklyn, New York,
How
and
was growing up in Brooklyn?
I actually didn't grow up there. I was just born there, and then about 2 years old, I moved out to Long Island with my family,
Nice.
and then I grew up in Long Island,
What part of Long Island?
Central Islip.
Nice. My company that I work for is actually near there, so I know a
Oh,
little bit
okay,
about the area.
okay.
How was high school for you? How was during those times? Because in comparison to now, it's a vast difference, right?
Yeah, the neighborhood has changed a lot. It's gotten a lot rougher, but it was still rough when I was growing up there. It was still basically a low to middle class area. We had a lot of race riots and things like that. But I was on the gymnastic team, so that didn't really affect me. So, I was really friends with everybody. So, if
Nice.
something was going down, they'd be like, leave him alone. He's cool. I had excellent teachers. I'm still friends with some of my teachers from high school. I had a little bit of a tough time socially. I think everyone does in
Yeah.
high school, unless you're like the star of the football team or something. But I have a dear friend who actually, I'm also a musician, and I have my own band, and the backup singer is a woman that I met in seventh grade, and we're still
Still
hanging
friends to
out and
this
doing
day.
music. Yeah.
That's great. Speaking of your music, I got a chance to listen to your recent album
Oh, good.
that you had dropped, and I want to say I love the energy that you put out. Something for me lately, all around me, there's a lot of hip hop music,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I just want to get away from that vibration.
Sure.
And the tone that you and your band set, I love it. It's very mellow,
Oh,
it's
thank
very
you.
chill. It helps me think.
Mm-hmm.
I had it on while I was driving home from school yesterday in the car, and it was just very relaxing.
Oh,
So
cool.
I
Great.
really love your work.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Anybody who after this podcast should definitely go check out Mr. Emmett's huge work.
Thank you. I appreciate
How
that.
did you get into music? And speaking of, what part of the band do you yourself
Okay, so I'm the lead singer and the guitarist, and I also play keyboards on some of the recordings.
nice.
And I do the arrangements and the production, and I do the recording itself. So I do the engineering, and then I bring it to a friend who does mixing. I have two people that I use to mix, and then I have musicians come in like a sax player or bass player, drummer, that kind of stuff that to kind of fill in the rest of it. But it's basically it's all my material and my ideas and my production and that kind of stuff.
Were you part of a high school band? Where did the
No,
love for music come from?
I started playing piano when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. I started taking lessons, and then that lasted with lessons till I was about 14, I guess, something like that. And then I got my first guitar, and it was all over from
Love at
there.
first sight?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So I really love guitar. That's my main instrument now. And my grandfather was actually a musician in England. He had a swing band, like a big band, with a horn section and violins and all that stuff. And he used to play every week in London. He would play in different clubs in London. So I guess I get it. I get some of it from him, I'm assuming.
And you've told me that your band performs locally around the New York City, Connecticut area.
Yeah, yeah.
Any particular place that you guys perform at the most? If anybody would like to catch one of your shows, where can they go?
Yeah, my kind of my home base is a place called Finley's in Huntington Village. It's a nice place. It's got a restaurant attached to it, so you can get some good food there, and it's also kid friendly. So my daughter, who's my merch girl, she's allowed to come, and she sells my T-shirts and CDs and that
Oh,
kind
that's
of
pretty
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
the way that me and Mr. Hughes got connected is here at our recreational center at school, he taught a yoga class which I've always wanted to take part of until a couple weeks ago. I walked by the class, I saw you guys doing your
Hmm.
thing, and I instantly wanted to join. So please give me a little bit of background to how you found yoga. What does yoga mean to you?
Hmm. I had a sister who died from suicide when I was 25. She was 17, and it really, as you can imagine, really rocked my world, rocked my whole family's world, and I really started kind of a self introspective journey, I would say, looking at myself and what was really important to me in life. And at that time, I became a vegetarian and I started doing a lot of yoga. I did yoga every day for about maybe a year and a half or something like
Why
that.
yoga?
Um, it just resonated with me. The postures. Um, it's really about calm within the storm, where your body is twisted into this crazy position and it's really hard to balance. And then where do you find that peace within all that is where, when you're doing the posture correctly, your breathing is normal and you're just sort of at peace. And then the posture is easy then. Um,
Also, you said you were a gymnast when you were younger as
right.
well, so you had the
Right.
routine of flexibility
Yeah.
and
Flexibility,
strength
balance,
training,
right. Yeah.
balance, right?
Doing handstands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that always appealed to me also. So that's a good point. I really didn't think of that, but that's kind of, I guess, where my love for yoga came in as well. And then just the feeling afterwards. I've never once done yoga and said, oh, maybe I should have done something else. Like every time I say, man, I should just
I
do this
should
every single day.
more
Yeah.
often, right?
Yeah.
You got your well, you graduated from the University of Adelphi, was it?
Yes.
And there you went to you graduated with a degree in social sciences, right?
Yeah, my undergrad degree was in social sciences. My master's degree from Adelphi was in education.
A person like you who've experienced a lot of life, for someone younger looking for guidance, how would you what would you tell them in terms of advice and picking a career or a degree in college? Because I feel like a lot of kids my age, or that's something that I went through, is not knowing what you wanted to do.
Hmm.
What do you pick? And after leaving high school, which you had no choice of any kind of
Right.
material that you were learning, to now you're able to pick anything you want. So,
Hmm.
what can help some students pick a choice?
I think it's a really great point you pick up that you brought up. It's really hard to know when you're 18 years old what you want to do for the rest of your life. And what I'd say is that, especially now, because an undergraduate degree, unless it's from MIT or some really, fantastic school, you pretty much have to get a master's degree also. So follow your passion. What are you passionate about? Like, you're passionate about, obviously, doing this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I really am.
So this is what you should do in your undergraduate degree. You should really go for it 110%. I think a lot of times when people don't make it in the industry, in whatever industry they're interested in, and especially if it's a tough one like art or music or entertainment, broadcasting, the reason why they don't make it is because they didn't give it 110%. They did it half-heartedly. They said, "Oh, let me get my backup plan in place," and all that's good. You can do that with a master's degree. You can
Yeah,
get a master's degree to teach or to become better at a certain thing that will allow you to have a good life where you're making enough money. But if you're chasing money, I think that's always going to be a bad place to go to, because then it's like it's you're not going to be happy.
yeah,
And how many people can say they love what they do?
not a lot.
Not a lot. Most people say,
Yeah,
I got to go to work. I hate work. And you do that for 40, 50 years. I mean, that sounds like a prison sentence.
I worked at SeaWorld about 2 years
Oh,
ago,
wow.
and there was this one lady that was there for like 20, 30 years, right? And she was making almost the same wage that I was making. From there, I realized that I don't want to be stuck doing something that I am not enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
I rather spend the rest of my life doing things I love,
Mm-hmm.
where it brings me happiness, a sense of accomplishment, to pretty much just making someone else's dream come true, you know?
Right.
Um, you graduated with your social science degree. What what changed there, or how did you deviate from your path to where you are now? Because that you ended up studying something else after, right?
Yeah. So what happened was I graduated with social science degree from undergrad, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. It was sort of I needed a major, and I went to my advisor, and we kind of put together a plan that if I take this class and that class and this another one or whatever, then I could put it all together, and that would be my major. So I was a social science major, and basically what I was doing in undergrad was I was playing out in a band. I was playing like 5 days a week. So that's sort of
That's pretty cool.
yeah, that's what I was really doing. And then and in between, I was studying, going to class, and that kind of stuff. So I graduated, and then I was working with my father doing construction. We were putting in kitchens and stuff like that, and um, I was doing a new kitchen in this person's house, and he said to me, "Oh, you just graduated? Well, in New York City, you can take a test. It's called the temporary per diem license, and you can become a teacher." And I was like, "What? What do you mean I could become a teacher?" So he said, "Yeah, just call up the school, and they'll put you onto where you have to go and take the test. And basically, the test was, are you literate? Can you write and read? And so I got a temporary per diem license, and I started teaching. And I was supposed to teach math, and then a certified math teacher came in the meantime and got that job, and so they gave me a special ed job, which I didn't know what special ed was. I thought it was all right. I'm just going to get a whistle and throw out some basketballs like phys ed,
Yeah.
but it was special ed. So I was thrown into this special ed class with no training whatsoever with these super crazy kids, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the kids. I mean, they were wild, and they were,
What were some things that you were expecting or weren't expecting when you got the job?
well, when I first got the job, I was expecting to get shot every day. Like, because the kids would tell me, I'm going to bring a gun in tomorrow and shoot you because I hate you.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah. But then I realized I had this little woman who was probably 65 years old and a size zero, tiny, tiny woman. And she was in there, and she's like, telling the kids off and say, please, don't talk to me like that, or I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Weiner. And I'm thinking to myself, here I am. I'm 21 years old. And if this older woman who's tiny can deal with this, I can deal with it. So um, it just sort of I figured it out. I went around snooping around in the closets in the room in the school and found some textbooks, and I brought them into the classroom and dusted them off and handed them out to the kids. I mean, we had no textbooks, we had no
What
anything.
year was that?
81.
Okay.
81. It was in East New York, so it's a
Hmm.
really rough area of
Especially during that
Brooklyn.
time as
Yeah, it
well,
was
right?
it was murder capital of New York City.
I've heard a lot of crazy stories about New
Yeah,
York,
yeah.
especially during the 80s.
East New York was really bad, really bad.
Yeah.
But I did it for 3 years, and then during that time, I went to school at night to get my master's in education. And then once I got my master's, I moved to the suburbs, to suburban school, which was great. I was there for 9 years. So altogether, I was a special ed teacher for 12 years. And then I decided to go back to school to become a chiropractor. And that's when I came to the University of Bridgeport.
And what age were you during that time?
I was 33.
So that's a big change in
Yeah.
career and life, right?
Yep. Yep.
What made
Huge.
you, what pushed you to that decision?
Well, I had a problem with my ear, and I went to all kinds of specialists, and nobody could figure it out. And they were just like, "Well, maybe we'll go in there and we'll rearrange some things, and you could be deaf afterwards, or maybe it won't help." And I was like, "It doesn't seem like a good option." And a friend of mine's father was not father, uncle was a chiropractor, um, and she took me to him, and he adjusted my neck, and my hearing improved tremendously from that.
Really?
Yeah, and I had a lot of dizziness also from this, and that improved a lot as well. So I said to myself, how fantastic is it that you can use your hands to treat somebody and get them better? So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give up everything, go back to school and become a chiropractor, which I did. And then once I graduated here, I was actually recruited to teach in the program. So I taught for about 12 years as an adjunct, and then I came on as full time about 15 years ago.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, what were some of the biggest surprises that you learned during this career path that you didn't know before going in?
Well, I always walked with a lack of confidence. I always felt like I wasn't smart enough. I really doubted my intellectual ability. And when I came to this program, it's a really, really difficult, challenging program. And I did great. I had straight A's through the whole program. And it made me realize that, you know what, I am kind of smart. I'm a smart guy, and I was able to do it. And I was the valedictorian of my class. I graduated summa cum laude. I mean, it was like, all right, I guess I am pretty good at this. So, and then when I was recruited to teach also, that made me feel really, a lot more confidence in myself.
I guess the question I was asking was, in terms of the body, the human body, what were
Oh,
some things that you've learned, being a chiropractor that you didn't know before, or something that you feel most people are not aware of?
right. Okay. So it's a great question. So when I first came to school, I was much more esoteric about my kind of approach to health and sort of more into more metaphysical things. And then it's a very heavy science based program. So everything is like, we did this
That's what scares
study.
me away from it. Like
Right.
I love the whole concept, but all the science and studying, that is
So,
not me.
yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of study.
Yeah.
But then what happened was in about seventh semester, eighth semester, I had a teacher who taught something called SOT technique, sacral occipital technique.
Mm.
And he was much more intuitive as a healer. And I realized that you really need to mix both. You need to be intuitive and you need to be a healer first. And then all the science is great to back that up.
Yeah.
But if you're just relying on technique and science, you're probably not going to be that good.
So
Because
are you religious at all by any chance?
not really. Not really. I would say spiritual,
Yeah.
but definitely not. I go to what's called fellowship. I belong to a Universalist Unitarian Fellowship, which is basically it's not really a religion because they don't believe in like a set God or anything.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, how can you be a better person? Um, and I go almost every week.
Nice.
It's a great, it works really well for me. I was raised Catholic, which never worked for me.
Yeah.
Not that anyone out there is Catholic and it works for you, that's great, but it didn't work for me. But Universalist Unitarianism really works for me. That's great. It's
With your chiropractic background and your veganism, how do you feel that they go, or how do you feel they coexist with each other? Because I am huge on athleticism, and I try as much as I can to maximize my performance,
mhm,
and a lot has to do with taking care of my body and my nutrition.
yes.
Why are you such an advocate for veganism, and what do you think the benefits of veganism are?
Well, if you look at studies on diet, it's really not a great study to have, one group of people eat a vegetarian diet for 6 weeks and the other group eats a regular diet, and then you compare everybody at the
Yeah.
end. Because that's kind of like, what's 6 weeks going to do? But if you look at the blue zones, which are areas of the world where people live much longer than their genetic counterparts, there are 6 places in the world. There's a place in Italy, there's a place in Greece, a place in California, actually, there's a place in Costa Rica, a place in Japan, where people live really long. They live to be in their 90s and hundreds.
There's a group of people, I forgot where they're from, but I think their main thing is apricot seeds.
Oh, I don't know
The
about that.
Hansa people.
Uh huh.
Yeah, that's what they're called, the Hansa people. They're known to live about like 120 years old,
Wow.
something like that. And their biggest things that they eat is apricot seeds.
Uh huh.
I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah. Well, if you see like the common thread in the blue zones is the diet is basically a vegan diet with they eat some meat here and there. Some of them don't eat any meat, but some of them eat a little bit, like once a month or so. They have a little bit of meat. A really strong sense of community and exercise. Um, so I try to incorporate those things into my life as well. So I exercise. Let me see. I play basketball on Sundays and Tuesdays. I do yoga Mondays and Wednesdays. I play tennis on Fridays.
So you
So
are very active.
yeah, I'm very active.
I love to hear that.
Yeah,
I hope more people become more active the older that they get.
yeah,
It was something about a huge percentage of people won't jump or sprint after 30. I think the numbers were like over 50, which is
right.
insane.
It's insane.
And for me, athletics or just moving has always been my identity.
Hmm.
As being a very athletic kid and doing all sports to even now I compete in martial arts. I still play soccer as much as I can. I go jogging, hiking all the time, and I can't think of not doing that.
Right,
When I miss a day or two, I really feel the difference in my
right.
body, and not just
Sure,
my body, it also affects my mental.
absolutely does.
um s- like last year I did, let's say, about like a month of I didn't do veganism, but I dieted. So I was doing a 24-hour fast
Uh huh.
where I would only eat at 8 p.m. And that was the best my body has ever felt.
Hmm.
Have you ever done any kind
Oh
of
yeah,
fasting?
fasting
And
is
it's
really really good for you.
especially in your field of study,
Hmm.
what are some benefits for people who don't know about fasting?
So basically, your body is meant to fast. If you watch anything like Naked and Afraid or Alone or any of the Survivor shows, you have somebody who's an absolute expert on survival, and 3 days later they're crawled up in the corner of their little shelter they made, crying they want to go home to mommy. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And what what people your physiology is made to starve sometimes because you have 7 hormones that raise your blood glucose levels. You only have one that lowers it, which is insulin. All those other 7 raise your blood glucose levels because we're meant to live in a place where we don't get food every day. This
Right.
thing like 3 meals a day is ridiculous.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Totally
much.
ridiculous.
People look at me weird when I say that I don't think that I could eat 3 times a day. I've done it and my body feels like crap.
Sluggish,
My
right? Yeah.
energy levels are super low. I
Mm-hmm.
get tired so easily. My performance is not great.
Right.
Like in anything I do. I've found for me the best is eating maybe 2 meals a day.
Right.
I tend not to eat before like 12 or 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I'll eat lunch around there and then maybe have dinner between like 8 or 10. I do a lot throughout the day, so I don't
Right.
get to eat in the middle of the day. But yeah, man, I am a huge advocate for fasting and just reducing the amount of food you need,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like society now, especially me growing up in the age of social media and digital advertising, I feel like they push food on you
Oh
so
yeah.
much and it's
Mm-hmm.
everywhere around you. And it's kind of hard not to fall into temptations. I can't lie, because I find myself doing it.
Sure.
Food tastes amazing, but sometimes it's good to limit yourself and starve the body
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's
Yeah.
okay to feel hungry sometimes.
It is
It's
okay to
it's
feel
it's
hungry.
because it goes away. It goes
Yes.
away. Like I fasted for, I think the longest was 3 days. I didn't have anything but water, and you get these cravings. Like after about a day and a half, you like all of a sudden you're monstrous. Like you want to chew the wall off, because you're so hungry. But it just passes, and then you feel good, and you feel
Yeah.
okay, and you feel light, and you feel energetic,
I
and
do feel
yeah,
energetic.
it's people mistakenly think that eating a lot of food gives you energy, and it doesn't. it's like coffee. You know, coffee will give you a boost, and then
You
crash,
plummet.
big time crash. I don't do any caffeine at all myself. I don't eat breakfast. I eat about noon. I'll have something to eat, and then I'll eat something at night.
What kind of energy supplements do you, if you take any, do you
I do take some supplements. I take antioxidants like E and C.
mhm.
I take a multivitamin. I take a probiotic, and I also take arginine and magnesium. Um,
Speaking of, for many people who struggle with arthritis or any
mhm.
kind of joint pain, what would you recommend for them?
So it depends on how severe it is. Like if you have really bad degenerative arthritis in your knees, you probably need a knee replacement
Hmm.
eventually. But keep moving. Swimming is one of the best things you can do for your body. It's great, and it's anti gravity. You know, the water is holding you up. So
Less pressure on the joints, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I have an aunt who is 85, and she has. If you just looked at her knees, they're all swollen, and she's been told she's got bone on bone, no cartilage left, and she walks in a pool 3 hours a day every day,
And that's our
and
exercise.
that's her exercise, and she has no knee pain whatsoever, and she's doing great.
Nice. For anybody who'd like to get in touch with your music, or anything else, where would they go and find them if you'd like to tell them your
Sure. I'm on all the streaming services under Emmett Hughes. My first album is called 60 Trips Around the Sun. I did it for my 60th birthday. And
nice.
then my latest album is called The Third Degree. And I just released my first single from that. My next single's coming out in 2 weeks. And then another single after that. And then the whole album drops. Uh,
And also for anybody who's at the University of Bridgeport, what days are you doing your yoga classes and
the
the
yoga
time?
class, that's great. Yoga is Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 to about 7:30, something like that.
You know what I was thinking of? When it gets warmer, it would be so cool to have one of those yoga classes
Yes,
outside
it'd be great.
on the grass.
Yep.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, down by the water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
great
yeah.
views,
Uh-huh.
great vibes with
Yep.
some nice little music,
Excellent.
right?
Yep.
All right, Mr. Hughes, thank you so much for coming on the
You're so
podcast
welcome.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate this.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. See you next time. Peace.